Our topic today is negotiating with a project sponsor. So we've got several terms there we're going to do. We're going to spend a lot of time about the negotiating process, and we're going to talk a little bit about what a sponsor is. But first of all, let's just start with the basic thing with the question, what is a project? And the definition is it's a temporary endeavor, and there's an output that you have something that's very unique. It's a product, it's a service, or it's some result. And characteristics, it does have an endpoint. It's not something that should go on and on forever. It's possibly something new because it hasn't been done before, or it's a modification of something that's been done before. You have a scope of work that's built upon some detailed specifications, and then you have to schedule it into a series of steps. It has a schedule aspect to it so that there's a time limit when you want to get it done. Of course, we also have cost. What kind of budget do you have that's going to be based upon your activity? It also means that unless you have people who are working full-time on a project, that they are doing some other job, and some people feel that their other job is their real job, and sometimes a project is viewed as something different than what they really do. So you have to work with getting them from those other functions, focusing their effort on the project. So in that regard, it does compete with those other activities. Resource allocation is something that's very challenging as you go through a project work. And of course, there's a lot of uncertainty about it because it is unique, hasn't been done before. So that's kind of the basic definition, if you will, of a project. So who is a project sponsor? In this case, we're going to draw it straight from the Project Management Institute guidebook, their latest edition. And if you do claim to be a project manager, I certainly hope that you are a member of the PMI, because that is a professional association for this profession. And we are a profession, even though a lot of times it's been accidental. I can claim to be a project sponsor because I just went through a home build project, and I relocated from the Bay Area in California in Silicon Valley, where I worked for many years with GE and HP, and now I'm in southern Utah. So I would say my project manager was our builder, and I was the project sponsor because I was the owner, and really got to experience again firsthand what it means to be a project sponsor. Here's the definition. We provide the resources and support for the project. Of course, as a homeowner, the resources in this case, I provide all the funding. Okay, it really is where you promote the project. The sponsor is going to be the champion for it. You need to gather support, you need to sell the project and promote the benefits all across the whole organization. And that might mean selling the project to clients, to upper management, to senior management, the executives. So they really do have a significant role in doing that. And it also means as you go into the project that it might be the escalation path. I don't know of any project that probably has not had changes throughout. What is your process to authorize those changes? You might have a change review board, or it may be that the project manager can make some of the initial authorizations. In many cases, it needs to go to the project sponsor to authorize changes, whether it's in your scope, whether it's in a decision about are we wanting to continue with this project, what features might we want to add, because you'll always have those opportunities where something comes along and says, hey, we can improve this project by adding a certain aspect. And so are you going to add those changes, bearing in mind it might impact your scope, schedule, and resources for the project. So every project needs a project sponsor, not a group, because if you have multiple project sponsors, that's going to be almost equivalent to no sponsor. In fact, I was working with a group of executives at HP that viewed the business team as a sponsor for each of their projects. As I interviewed people, a cross-section of people on teams and doing projects, they all complained, we don't know who to go to when there's a question or a problem on the project. And our advice back to the business team was identify a single sponsor for each project that has that relationship and the people know who to go to. And they did that and made a big difference. So a project manager, who is a project manager? Well, first of all, you're probably bewildered. It's like things are coming from you, at you from every direction. And it's going to be challenging. It's It's a great profession. It's a challenging profession because you do have so much coming at you. You are also the source of all information and knowledge. You're the key person who knows everything that's going on in that project, or at least should. And you also are the strongest man in the world, that you're the one who gets it done. In fact, I think it's a great profession because you're close to the action, but you're far enough, say, up the food chain where you can guide and you know everything that's going on, and you can make decisions and you can guide it through. It's not just where you're doing the task. In fact, one of my big programs that I did when I was in GE in the field for medical systems was to install a radiology department. And I tried doing some of the work and realized I need to stop doing it and actually manage all the people who are there working it. So I need to be in a position to be the liaison for the client when they came to visit, that I would report back to my district service manager how we're coming. I could report to the business manager when is something done so that we can bill the customer and get some cash flow happening. And of course I had to schedule, get the resources, and put everybody on task that made the things done. So there's so many things that need to happen. So David Frame, and in fact in that picture, he's the person on the left. I'm on the right, and Alfonso Pizarro, my co-author and colleague, is in the middle. We did a seminar together in Madrid, Spain. So he has a great book. He has a number of key books, but here's a listing that David put together of what it takes to be competent as a project manager. And you can see there's a long list there. I'm not going to go through the whole list. I'll point out at the top, you get things done. That's what's very unique, very important for our profession, is that as project managers, we get things done. And we're not always the smartest person in the room. I know for certain I'm not. I worked with some very smart people, and my job was to be the process person who could pull things together. And I can remember a time I was with some very smart computer architects, and I think they were arguing about all the different features, all the things that we could do. And I swear that if I hadn't put a process in place to try to get us to a consensus, they'd still be arguing today. So that was my contribution, is to put process in place, facilitate, lead the group to get to some results. And of course, what I've highlighted on this screen is what we're talking about today. To be competent means you need to be a negotiator, because you're going to do it every day. And one of the key persons you're going to negotiate with is that project sponsor. So you might look at a benchmark. I'm going to give you a series of questions, and if we actually were live in a class, I'd ask you to go through and score this thing. I'm going to give you several choices. I want you to kind of think about which answer you might say. About your sponsor, thinking a specific sponsor. You might say, what sponsor? Or they started the project but then disappeared after it got going. Or they weren't helpful, they were too distant. Or they, on the other hand, they were the super uber project manager intended to micromanage it. Or we kind of get to the neutral point, they're moderately helpful. And now we get a little bit more positive, they made it clear what was needed, they assisted in every way to make it happen. Or G, they defined it, identified constraints, funded, adequate resources, made decisions, resolved conflicts, and supported the project team. Now I suspect we have almost a couple hundred of us here online here. I suspect if we were in a room and I asked you to raise your hand, how many picked A through G? There would probably be maybe 2 or 3 of you who would pick G. The rest of you are probably going to be somewhere in between, almost a perfect Gaussian bell curve, because that's really been my experience of what happened. Sponsorship is not